What's up, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm Jacob with Very Good Knife Company, and today I'm doing a little bit of grinding. Now, I was supposed to get heat treating done on Monday, given that some circumstances were out of my control. That did not happen until yesterday, which just put me a day behind on finish grinding and, well, rough grinding altogether. A lot of my blades didn't finish up with their tempering cycles until late today. I have but 3 hollow grinds out of all of these, and I'm going to go ahead and grind these today. Now, all I've done to these is taken them from this look right here. It's just what they look like when they come out of the foil packets from heat treating. These are heat treated, hardened Nitro V blades. I've surface ground them to a nice 120 finish. Marked them with layout die, and then marked my center and side lines. Now, like I said, most everything else that I have is flat grind. In fact, pretty much all of them are flat grind. What's up, Lucas Riley? Sure, why not? But I have ended up with a bunch of extras in Nitro V. Now I've got an extra Wasp and Adventure Junior. I've got extra Hornets and Mustangs, Adventures and 3/16. What's up, Steven? How's it going, bud? I'm not going to be live for too long. I've just got 3 blades that I've got to do. Well, I've got more than that, but I've actually got to get back to the house early today because I'm filming a podcast with Knife Junkies tonight. And, yep, extras, lots of extras. I've just been doing extras every time I do a bunch of Nitro V. I did 19 or 17 Nitro V blades yesterday. I ended up coming in this morning, and I still had some dry ice left over, so I went ahead and cut out 3 more blades. One of them is the first of the Lone Star. Designed by Zach Schmidt, and then I did some extra Hornets, Mustangs, Wasps, blah blah blah. But that extra stack is getting thick, isn't it? My stack of extras is getting thick. I did have an Adventure in ADCRV2, a Generation 3 that I finished and took home yesterday. But today, all I'm doing is I'm just going to get these completely ground. Take them from rough grind through finish grind and get these 3. These are my 3 easiest ones left on my, my orders board, which is not too full anymore. I do have old John Wayne's order. There's 4 of his 5 that he has on order here, and all of his have liners, and then I have some other ones with liners. Those I usually wait to do, not for any particular reason other than like, here's the order board. It's pretty well, about halfway full right now. But what's up, Aries EDC? A talon shaped blade. Yeah, like a hawkbill or karambit. I do the this one's rusty as heck. This one is this is the original lineman design. This one's stamped with 2 Jakes on there. This one's been sitting on the bench a very long time. But this is essentially what my lineman is now. It's a backwards hollow grind. They are not that difficult depending on how steep the curve is. If the curve is really steep, like a karambit, talon, really super curvy, they can get kind of challenging. But be honest, I don't get a whole lot of requests for them, so if it's already challenging and nobody asks me to do them, then I won't do them. Go figure. All right. I've got a brand new 36 grit belt on here, and we're just going to run these. I've just got 3. What's up, Gabe? How's it going, bud? I've just got a Mustang and 2 Wasps, and we're gonna just take them all the way through surface ground. They're surface ground right now and marked for rough grinding. So, all right, this won't take too awful long. Like I said, I need to get back to the house, but I'm also waiting on a temper cycle to finish before I can leave. But I need to get back to the house and get set up because I'm doing a podcast tonight with Bob DeMarco at Knife Junkies, which won't be airing tonight. It'll be airing next week or the week after that, something like that. He told me the dates, but anyway, we're gonna grind some blades. One side happens pretty fast. What's up, Jim Miller? How's it going, bud? No goat. I'm out on the goat. Here's one. Rough as it gets. We'll do 60 grit next. One side. one side. Alright, there's our Mustang. Alright, now we'll move to 60 grit, and then we'll jump back to the surface grinder. That 60 grit grinds a little cleaner than 36. Helps me get my lines a little closer. Plus, as the 36 grit wears out, it'll start getting hot. I don't want to do that. So I want to keep it cold. There's the 36 grit, or 60 anyway. Pretty. One. There we go. All right, now you can ditch the old safety glasses and the mask. What's up, John? How's it going? Hold on one second. I'll show you something. All right. All right. Check it out, guys. So John blessed me with colder air. I got them both hooked up. Now I'm going to rig something permanent because those little plastic things are not permanent. And I want to be able to leave these on. It is considerably cooler in here, even though I did a heat treat today. And when you open that little tiny kiln right there, when it's 2,000 degrees, all you got to do is open it and close it for about 2 seconds, and it'll heat the entire room up in here like 10 degrees. And it is It is not fun. I'll just say that. It makes it miserable. Yesterday was miserable. And there's just really nothing I can do about it. When I'm heat treating, you just kind of got to go with it. But John has been very kind to me, and I appreciate you, buddy. Very, very, very much so. We're moving upwards. Got air conditioning in the shop. Cold air blowing. So I'm going to send that swamp cooler back. Maybe trade it out for a third air conditioner. I'm not sure. Alright, I'm just hitting these guys with acetone because I got to get that layout dye off. That layout dye will get all up in my nice fine 220 belt, and it just ruins everything. So I don't like just leaving the layout dye on there. Just a second and we'll go back over to the grinders. All right, 220 on the surface grinder. Actually, we're gonna go 220 and 400, which is finishing the cheeks out all the way. And then we'll step back over to the wheel and we'll take it down from we'll do 120, 220, and 400. So that's what we got. We'll start with this Mustang. So here you can see the 220 finish versus the 120 finish. Now, there's still a little bit of layout dye on there, but you can see the lines on this one, and they're getting really hard to see on this one. There you go. Not much. See ya. So the wasps are actually small enough to stack together like this. Pretty cool. Get to it kind of. Looking pretty. right, I'm going to swap to a 400 now. I'm going to swap to a 400 grit, if I can get it off. Come here. Good Lord. All right. I'm not even going to move those wasps. Just going to run right into the 400. Beauty. There's our 400 grit on the sides. Beauty. That's a great idea. You better answer it on live stream. All right, so now those three blades look like this: 60 grit on the bevels and 400 grit on the sides. They are nice and shiny. Now we got to make the bevels look like that too. But I gotta have somewhere to set these so they don't scratch. A towel laid out on my cart here. That dude. Put this 120 on. Now, this is the final belt that is ceramic. The last two belts are finishing belts, and they are aluminum oxide. What I'm doing now is I'm going to take the last thickness off of this edge that I want. Right now, this one's about 20 thousandths. I'm willing to bet it's right dead on 20 thousandths. And I would like to take about 2.5 thousandths off each side, get it down around that 15 mark. That would be ideal for me. For the Wasp, 12 to 15 is good. And the Mustang is going to be 15 to 18 right now. This one's at about 25 thousandths. So I can safely take off about 3 to 4 thousandths on each side, which is, with the 120, that's about as much as I want to really push it. because again, these are hardened, so I don't want to burn them. And it's easy to get that much taken off with a new belt. This one surface ground them though, only 3, so it has enough to do the rest of the finish grind, which is what I need. But I will also be doing the swedges. All 3 of these blades get swedges, and then little the chamfers on the shoulders. What we're looking for. See that rough, lot finer, rough, lot finer. right, now I'm gonna do the swedges. Like that. There goes the oven. One second, I'll answer that for you, Stephen. Maybe you decide to switch. So swedges for me are like a 50-50 kind of thing. So let's go get this. Let me go grab all these blades out of the oven. Right quick. Because if this thing beeps one more time while I'm trying to think, I'm gonna have to get out my hammer. Oh. Alright, these guys are done. These three will have to go in for another round. So there's a walkabout. There's a 5-inch walkabout, 5-inch blade. And then 3 tributes. Those are all Nitro V. And then here's 3 more Nitro V blades. This is just a place filler, a buddy. Another Hornet. And then, I'll save that one for last. Here's another Signature. This one's got like a very gentle recurve, narrow blade. It'll be a big, deep hollow grind. It's got a lot of curves to it. And a high clip where it doesn't scoop deep, but it is clipped. This will be a Signature series. Pretty cool looking blade. And then the very first, Zach, I hope you're watching. Hell, I know you'll come back and watch it over again anyway, but this is the first Lone Star. Pretty sweet. Those 3 that I just showed you have to go back in for their round 2 heat treat, but only after they've cooled completely. Yeah, I haven't done a Signature in a while, not since those 4 that I took to Blade Show. I still have 2 of them. I still have the dagger, but it belongs to someone right now. They don't know it, but I have to make a stand for it, like a really pretty fancy stand. And then I still have number 13, which is that bead blasted one. All right, back to the swedge thing. So, for me, and as far as a swedge goes, the deeper cut a swedge, the less I like it. So like on a first strike has a really deep cut swedge, and that doesn't mean that I don't like that, because on that big knife, it makes sense. It's a fighter, And a swedge will help you get in. Since I can't say anything like that, I don't condone any actions like that. Just you kind of get where I'm going with that. But as far as like on the Mustang and the Hornet and the Wasp, which the Hornet and the Wasp are the same knife. One's bigger. This is the Wasp. And for those of you who don't know, this is a Hornet. This is a Wasp. Same exact knife, and I mean exactly the same, other than the 5/32 stock and the 1/8 inch stock difference. It's just an upscaled, and I do that a lot. But as far as the Hornet and the Wasp and the Mustang go, it's purely aesthetic. I think it adds just a little bit of flash, like faceting on a stone. Because, I mean, yes, it will help a little with like puncture. It does help with things like bags, like feed bags. Things with swedges like the Wasps and the Hornets, they will pop into a 6.75 inches. They will pop into a bag, and they'll pop in really quick versus not having the swedge. It just helps it glide in. Now, if a swedge is sharpened, then it wouldn't be a swedge, it would be a double edge. But a swedge is a false edge. Anyway, we've got 2 more steps to go with this, and then I'm going to call it quits for today. But we've got to go. We're going to step the speed down, and we've jumped over to a new 220 grit aluminum oxide belt. There's a 220 finish. You can see how clean it is. It's extremely, extremely clean looking versus that 120. Things not stick to the surface like moisture. Scuffing the edge helps me to see that thickness all the way down. You can see it's nice and even. Right about, I would say, 13 to 14 thousandths, which is in between that 12 to 15 range is where we wanted it. And I won't hit these until I get to the 400. Normally I would step them up like the bevels, but I mean, there's so little there that I don't really have to bother stepping. But there's your 220. Keep going. Got a couple more. Super clean. One more. Go. Now, the final finish. That 220 belt right there will go longer. It'll go for a little more, at least 2, 3, 4 more blades. Sometimes I'll get 10, depending on how big they are. But now we're going to go to 400. So here you can see we've got 400 on the sides and 400 on the bevel. You can see that rough 120 on the swedges. We'll get those when we're done. I don't want to pinpoint pressure on the belt until I've done all my bevels, because it'll put little grooves in there that I'm not really interested in having. I like to do my flat bevels first, make sure that they're clean, and then I'll go do the swedges. There's one side to 400, and you can see the satin look. Now we've gone from, this is close, but you can still see some of those scratches. Scratches are about gone here. We've turned into a satin finish. Like that. Go. Beauty. Beauty, beauty. Alright, there's our 400 grit, shining like a diamond. Now, I'm going to do this portion of the spine up underneath. Then I'll get the swedges. And on this one, on the Mustangs, when I'm doing the handles, I usually like to do the spine. I always save the spine for when I do the handles. I just don't feel like there's any need to do it twice. But considering this one has a shelf right here, a step down where that clip begins, I can go ahead and finish everything up above that and then only get this when I'm doing the handle. Alright, there's a finished blade, ready for handles. You can see that portion of the spine is perfectly finished. And we've got our shoulder chamfers and our swedge. Beautiful blade. That was done. Go. And this is what I was talking about, not finishing the spine until I do the handles. I never do. There's no reason to try and finish it twice. I'd rather do it all together. But this is a finished blade, all 400 grit, except for obviously the spine all the way around. Again, we still have to put handles on this dude. All for that guy. Alright, so there is 3 blades from rough surface ground to a full finished grind. Now, they've obviously got some fingerprints and whatnot on them. When they're done, they'll get all cleaned up. The final finish on these knives, on every one of my knives, unless it's Cerakoted or blasted, is this right here. That's the final finish, 400 grit. And the last belt that they'll touch is a Scotch-Brite belt, which doesn't really change the finish. It more or less just, holy cow, I'm way unorganized today. It just blends everything on the surface together. This is a blue ultra fine Scotch-Brite belt. And those will get, the bevels, everything will get Scotch-Brited once the handle is on. That's the last step for the knife. But for now, these 3 guys are ready for handles, and these are my 3 easiest on the order list, meaning they don't have any liners or anything special. They are as hell. One of them is actually getting bead blasted. One of those wasps is actually getting bead blasted. So even the stainless ones, at this point, what I'll go ahead and do is they will move to the bench. Hey, there's a knife that I finished up today. So I really don't do custom orders. Every now and then I will, though. And it has to be for somebody special for the most part. And this is a little dagger for Ben Fenn. Turquoise G10 or Seafoam Tiffany Blue G10, whatever the hell you call it, and copper pins. on a little dagger. These, believe it or not, these are easier to finish for me than one of these, because there's almost no grinding on like the cheeks. There's no cheek, little tiny piece of ricasso there, but I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of finishing, and there's 2 hollow grinds. So they just, they kind of go really smooth for me. I'm actually really fast with the daggers. I used to do a whole bunch of them in 52-100, but pretty sweet little life. That one is in 80 CRV2, so I'm having to keep it oiled up. I give it its initial oil treatment. I'll spray everything with oil, and then these blades go night-night till tomorrow. All right, guys. I have to get home. I got to get myself set up and ready to do this podcast for Knife Junkies tonight. I don't have an exact date or time of when that's going to air. It is not a live recording tonight. Thank God. I do like doing live streams, but sometimes, like when we're sitting down and doing formal interviews, I don't know, maybe it'll ease my mind. Maybe it'll make it worse. Who knows? Maybe I'll just prefer the regular live stream interviews. Anyway, I appreciate all your support. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.